My name's Clea. I'm at STSM at IBM. I'll get into what that means later. I've been in data processing now, well, I guess computers since high school. I graduated in 1982. So back then it was the trash 80. And I actually, it was kind of funny, I got into computers because I was lazy and I didn't want to do my Latin homework. So I wrote a basic program that would translate my homework for me. But I always thought it was a lot of fun. And then I went on to a great career as a, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, and then serving the donuts. And then I was a bartender, and then much to my parents' surprise, turned into an MVS systems programmer. So that was good. I actually started in Medford, Massachusetts. I'm going to get out of here for a minute because I'm getting cold. As a temporary typist for Amdahl Computers on site at American Express via Kelly Girls. That's before it was Kelly Services. And actually they had a dress code. You couldn't even wear pants. You had to wear a skirt and pantyhose and heels. Even in the middle of summer when it was 110 degrees out, it was really terrible. And I was hired by American Express as a fixed asset clerk. So what that meant was I was in charge of the physical, like the terminals, the VT100s, VT101s. This is all before the internet. So our life has changed a lot. I became a mix administrator simply because I bothered everybody to death. I'd show up on Saturdays and Sundays. I'd be there for change. It was a mainframe world. So I'd be there for change controls. Any big project, I was always standing there, completely unpaid. And I just wanted to learn. And everybody there was really nice. They helped me learn. In Massachusetts, I never had a problem. And maybe it's because I was just so entry level, or maybe because I didn't have any idea how hard it was that I was actually doing. Back then, you didn't really have classes like in JC. I don't know if you have mainframe classes today, but I knew some programming. So I didn't go in completely raw, but I think maybe the idea was here that I was, because I just blundered into it and was having so much fun. Everybody was really nice to me. And also it wasn't a threat. Who's going to be scared of this little 25-year-old girl that just wants to hang out and learn JCL? So it was a really good introduction, and that lasted for a couple of years. And then to feed off of what the previous presenters have said, I went to school. I went to George Washington. I went to Northeastern. I went to Northern Virginia Community College. I went to MIT. I went to Bunker Hill Community College because it was right near my house at the time. I went to, where was that? Oh, University of Colorado. I went to grad school there, which was hilarious because I didn't have an undergraduate degree. But I wanted to learn Linux back in the day. Then I started at Regis, finally. And I really found a home there. I went to various technical classes. This is Watson and Walker's classes on MVS performance. I went to those, and those were great. Went back to Regis. IBM technical classes as well in conferences. Went back to Regis. And somehow along the way, I got a bachelor's and master's in computer science. Which, that's really funny to me because back when I started, if you knew how to do stuff, you didn't need all these stupid degrees. And I thought my degrees were fun and everything, but quite honestly, they're somewhat of a waste of time. The only reason I have them, I think, is credentialism. So that way when I walk in to a customer site, they're like, oh, here's Clea. She's got 6 patents and 2 degrees. Woo-hoo. But what really matters is I can fix stuff. Now, I kind of struggled with this. I wasn't going to write this up. So I'd be interested to hear people's feedback. These are some of the really rotten things that have happened to me over the years. And I've chosen the worst of them. I mean, sometimes the day-to-day aggravation of things are just much worse than this stuff is. One of the worst ones was, you make so little, I'm not going to give you a raise. I mean, so I'm making, and I'll tell you real dollars, which is the first time in my life I've ever done this because I'm so old it doesn't matter anymore. But so I made about $25,000 a year. The guy sitting next to me doing the same job made about $50,000. So you can tell how long ago this was. And so my boss actually told me that he was allowed to give out 20% in pay raises. And I think the vice president thought he'd give out 10% to each person. But he gave it all to the guy that made more money because it was a percentage. And that way the next year his budget would be that much more. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So, and then I found out that the secretaries all made more than I did by about $15,000 a year. And here I was staying up all night like an idiot. But I figured, okay, this will pass. I'm just going to hang on here. It didn't pass for a long time, but it eventually passed. I should volunteer to be laid off. We moved from the data center from Denver to Colorado, and I went kicking and screaming the whole way. Had to take speech training because I grew up in Boston. I still have some of the accent. It was much worse before. People couldn't understand me in Colorado because men take layoffs much harder than women. This is from the director of HR. I wanted to punch her out. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go have babies and get married, whatever. This I got one in Colorado. This really bothered me. You're taking jobs away from men that needs to support families. Well, I have a family too. It's a family of one, but I need to eat. I want to go to the grocery store, and I want to do well in my career. I mean, that was just amazing. You have to take all the on-call, as I have a family. And this woman now, she's in a cult, and she lives in a double-wide trailer in Nebraska. So she's pretty funny. Let's see how that one turned out for you, honey. So that one was kind of, but I guess I'll just go through the rest of them, and then how do you handle this stuff? You only got this job because you wear a skirt, you filled a quota, that kind of stuff, which that one came out of IBM. There was a person at IBM that told that to me. I was pretty much ignored at meetings. And then for a long time, I thought it was because I was female or because maybe my presentation skills aren't very good or I don't speak well or whatever it was. So I tried executive coaching, that kind of stuff, but it was usually because I was a girl. And then I was written up constantly at First Data. I didn't adhere to the dress code. Well, I've been here since last night. I put on sweatpants at some point, 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't come in on time on Monday morning. I was an entire hour late. I worked all weekend. Give me a freaking break. I slept through the pages. Ops didn't page me. Here's the, just they wanted to get rid of me so badly at First Data. But I guess how I handled this, I don't know whether I did the right thing this entire time, but I always knew it would get better. And I knew that I had to get to the point where I absolutely knew what I was doing, and then probably all this stuff would kind of go away. I think I just kind of believed that one day I would get a job that I can't believe I did all that. It was really terrible. And I don't know if I could have made it any better. This was all in the 80s and early 90s. And I always thought, too, this is why this conference is so good, I always figured maybe I'm a trailblazer. If I can put up with this crap and prove to these guys that I can do this job, then it'll make it so much easier for all the women coming in behind me, of which there's so many in mainframes. Well, I tried, but yeah, it's kind of funny.
I'm sure it's easier now, but some of those things still happen.
Well, it shouldn't. No, it's kind of.
I will put up with this, and I don't need to make a fuss.
Yeah.
I would say that's huge. That's on one of the slides I cut.
I don't know. But then my life did get better. Oh, and this might be part of the reason why my life was so difficult at that time. I was an MVS systems programmer. So this is your typical MVS systems programming people. That was me. Yeah, with my black leather boots and my motorcycle pulling up and going, okay. So I just kind of didn't fit the mold. Oh well. I did all this while I was sitting here. I'm going high tech. Okay, so I got into IBM, and all of that crap pretty much stopped. I was hired in as a capacity planner. I had 2+ years of experience doing capacity planning and MVS stuff. My on-call was horrific at First Data. I'd get home from work at about 7 o'clock. I'd have something little for dinner. I'd go to bed because I knew the on-call would start about 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning. But you just try to work through it. I actually had a date. I got married. That was good. Who wants to date somebody that can't get through a movie? My pager was constantly going off. I had some problems with clients, but not many, because I would just kind of leave, and then the IBMers would come around and say, you can't behave like that. And I got to do some really good things. At IBM, I got to, I'm getting cold again, expand the capacity planning to MVS disk and tape. Previous to that, it was just MVS CPU. And if you think about how much mainframes cost back in the day, there was a reason why there were people just assigned for CPU. I expanded that whole thing to the mid-range environment at IBM. I got to learn SQL. I had to give up SAS, wrote a lot of custom code, Brio, then SPSS. And I got a whole bunch of patents because I got put on the ODCS systems. It's the predecessor to the cloud. So I wrote a whole bunch of code on how to place LPARs in their mathematically correct spot, none of which we probably need anymore because we have application mobility, but that's another thing. So, and I like to count things. I like to count things that are really hard to count, like, for example, storage systems. How do you count use versus 3? I/O subsystems. How do you count multiple protocols going over a wire? So that's kind of my favorite things to do. And I make a pretty chart. So I got a bunch of patents, and this is really kind of fun to do because people might want to do this in their own careers. On Sunday morning, I call it Sunday Morning Fun Day. I just take Sunday and I do whatever I want, but in a kind of work-related activity. It's not every Sunday, but I figured if I can get 2 Sundays out of 4 for the month. So here I wrote a lot of fun code. I downloaded MATLAB and I learned it, and wrote a LPAR capacity. Oh, that one was the bin packing one. Yeah. So that one I had to learn Visual Basic. But on Sunday morning fun days, I take a list of all the stuff that I thought was so fun to work on during the whole week, and I can work on whatever I want. And usually I don't work Friday afternoons, so it's not like, you know, I can get my own time. I used to actually have to go into the office and do Sunday morning fun time, but that's just a fun trick. And from the rest, I just say I can do math, you know, modeling, statistics, probability. I can do odd things. And the cool thing about working at IBM, this is not supposed to be a poster session for working at IBM, but it is fun, is if I don't know how to do something, I can call up IBM Research. And I got a whole bunch of people now that I'm friends with at IBM Research, like, hey, I got this cool problem, want to take a look at it? And IBM Research, you don't really, it helps if you have money, but a lot of times I don't, but they like to work with me. Because I have real problems that we're trying to solve for real customers. And sometimes, the last time I got one solved, it took the guy like 4 hours. He said, we just never thought of it before. So it's really neat. And my husband and I work on a lot of stuff. We're working on some game theory stuff now, which is really kind of interesting. Okay, so let me see where I am. I have 14 more minutes. I was appointed to an STSM at IBM in 2008. A lot of STSMs at IBM have a really horrible MO. People refer to us as seagulls because we just fly over problems, you know, pooping on everybody along the way. So sometimes I think in my career, I think it's better that I know what I don't want to be than what I do want to be. I mean, I kind of know what I want to be when I grow up, but well, maybe I want to just grow up. But I've had the worst managers in the entire world. So I don't want to be that person that just says, oh, it's obvious. Why didn't you fix it? Well, if I'm called in, it's not obvious. And I'm going to work with people. And if you go into a bunch of people that are working on a problem for maybe even 8 months, and you just go in like gangbusters and you make everybody else mad, they're never going to work with you again. So I don't do that. I'm considered technical track. I'm on the same level kind of as a vice president, depending on the vice president. Some are executive vice presidents, some aren't, but I'm kind of there. And nobody ever paid that much attention to me until I became an STSM. So actually it was funny, this is a bad story, but I was sitting at a bar with my husband, and we both, the next day we were both going to the airport together, and he's going to give a talk in Ottawa, and I'm coming down here to Boston, so it was kind of funny. And we get to talking to the couple next to us, and so my husband's like, oh, what do you do? And she says, well, I'm a programmer at IBM. And he goes, really? My wife's an STSM. And she turned white, paid for her drink, and left. And I was like, oh, God. And my husband was like, what did you say? I didn't say anything. So I emailed her later and made friends. I said, look, I'm not like that. Like, I'm not going to call up her manager and say, wow, I thought we were having a drink. Woohoo. But Here, anyway, here's what an STSM is. And then, so after you do like senior certified architect, you're STSM, and then theoretically distinguished engineer, which I'm going to apply for this October. You have to apply once, you get shot down, then you apply again. So, well, it's just a process. And then IBM fellow, but I'll probably never make that. I don't want a PhD. I had enough school, as you can see from the previous chart. So I got called Batman the other day because when they have this really bad crit set, they call me up and I have to go fix it. So I need like a bat signal. So I don't know. I'm female, so some of the obvious ones weren't really applicable, so I don't know what I'm going to choose for my bat signal. But I get called for crit sets again. I'm really good at answering the phone and fixing stuff. These are really hard now. It's like DB2 on AIX. I've never worked on DB2 on AIX in my entire life, but maybe you can just make it up as you go along. And then I did a thing on database cluster reporting that had been hanging around a customer for a year and a half. So that was kind of fun. And then I'm a chief engineer for enterprise computing model. That's a really fun project. We're moving all the P-series LPARs and some Solaris LPARs. I feel like that movie when I say we have both operating systems, P and X. You know, like we have both, what's that, country and Western. You know? I think that was the Blues Brothers. But sometimes we all get dipped in blue here. Enterprise computing model, anyway, saved IBM, I don't know, like $150 gazillion by migrating P-series into XENIX. And it was part of our green computing initiative. And actually, I saved IBM so much money on this project. When I do most of the purchasing now for IBM internal. I go in with a $300 million budget. They say, oh, it's Clea, stamped, thank you. And I get my budget. But I like writing code. I still write SPSS. And I'm going to pitch the Rocky Mountain Computer Measurement Group, and I'm a subject chair of hot topics in the CMG. I get to do academy studies for high availability architecture across PNX, standard PNX architecture, OVMS storage, workload optimized system. And my last one was like, hey, Clea, go figure out time slice graphical processing units. So I get to work on all this cool stuff. And this is my day job. I do SAN migration, riverbed steelhead, and data center relocation reviews. And I'm moving to Ireland. So that'll be fun for 2 years. And there I'll be in charge, the transition and transformation executive, in charge of all data center relocations for Europe. So that'll be really neat. And my husband and dogs are coming too. So it'll be cool. So this is me in Second Life. So I'm skinny and I have blonde hair. I had to do something different. So I was a snake for a while, but I think I scared people off. The manager thing, that did a lot of harm to my career, I think, because I let them tell me what my goals should be. And they just said, well, you're doing all the right things. Keep on doing what you're doing. Well, you know, I'm not Dr. Hopper here. I didn't invent COBOL. There's got to be something else out there. And sometimes you just don't know what to do with yourself. And it's really difficult to find it. If anybody has a problem in that area, I got this STSM checklist that I wish I had gotten when I was 18 years old. It said, okay, here's this little checklist. I was like, well, that's easy. We'll just work through it. And then so every year, what I used to do is just pick 1 or 2 really hard things. And not give up, not say this is too hard. Well, it might be really hard, but that's the whole point. Don't choose easy things. And goals can be personal. Like, one goal, when I had that boss that said, you're just doing the right thing, I'm going to be in a good mood every single day this whole year. That was really hard, especially this one. I travel constantly, and my manager has this retentive way. She wants me to do these. She got rid of me, actually, because of my travel. She was scared of my travel. Goals can be technical. The Second Life thing, I built a model of physical to virtual consolidation where it actually had the LPARs flying through the air. That one was really cool. That took like a year of Sundays. Learning SPSS was pretty easy. And then the other thing is, when avoiding burnout, what I try to do, that's why I have Sunday Fun Day, is I try to have a lot of fun at work. And sometimes it's going to be hard depending on your manager, the grind that they put you through, but somehow I've always managed to make time for it. So here's my social networking in Second Life, where I'm all by myself so, with nobody there. Because I actually started that when I was on Twitter, and you know how you put the hash sign in, and so I was at a women's conference, an IBM women's conference, and nobody was there with me in Twitter. It's like, what's the point here? Oh well. But here's my Giveback. I try to do a lot of give back. I do the Technical Vitality Council at IBM. I have 20 plus mentees. 3 women are my mentees. Sometimes the women that I mentor are really, they're hard for me to understand because they don't want the travel that I do. They don't want the job pressure. They don't want to go learn the financial stuff. And it took me a while to get used to it, but actually that's really fine. It's better to know that rather than, okay, we've done all this work, you've got your certification, now you don't want to work 80 hours this week and fly off to Chicago and do whatever they want you to do. And that's okay. Some do, and some are constrained by their kids. Everybody's in a different spot. I have one woman that I mentor, and she has 2 autistic children. But we're trying to work around that, and IBM's a really good place for that. They take your work-life balance into consideration, or my work-work balance, as I call it. And we can still, I can still bring her through the STSM checklist. We can work on patents together. We can work on certifications together. So it kind of works. So get your name out there. I mean, I like the computer measurement group stuff at the national CMG and the regional ones, because if I'm dipped in blue right now, I don't know how much good I am at someplace outside of IBM anymore. So I get to meet a lot of people that don't work for IBM and see what the rest of the world's doing. I've made a lot of friends there. So if you'd like to make friends with me on LinkedIn or on Twitter or whatever, I'm not on Second Life too often anymore, but give me a buzz. There's contact information all over the place. So here's my little taggy thing. I forget what they're called. But LinkedIn is the best way to find me if you want to do something with the computer measurement group. And yeah, I had to take our online training. Now everything says views posted here on social media are my own. Well, who else would they be? Maybe I'm so funny, funny spot. And so this is my new family. Here's my husband, who's my long-suffering husband, who's going to Ireland for 2 years. And get this, okay, IBM pays for each dog to go with a budget of $5,000 per dog per way. I'm like, what are these dogs going to go in the QE2? You know? I'm like, my mother said, can I be your dog? So I had a $20,000 round trip budget for my dogs. It's like, somebody loves pets at IBM. I know. Well, the one's a pit bull too. So we tried getting them onto the plane with us, and you know, we could do like the blind my husband thing, so he brings both dogs on. I'm really scared though to bring them along, but they're both rescue dogs, and they're pretty happy campers. And here we are camping. So, are there any questions? I hope this was informative. Okay. She's coming up first. Sorry.
Can you share the STMS checklist with us?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just make contact with me on LinkedIn and ask for it, and I'll see if I can just post it in with my presentation.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all want it.
Okay, it's nice. It's got 4 categories and things like I never knew IBM wanted me to have patents, and I look back and I go, well, giant duh. But I mean, checklists are just good for me. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay.
Can you put your QR code back up there so some people can get it?
Sure. Oh, and I brought business cards too. I put my personal email on just if Just because with all that social media training I just had to go through, I'm scared to death that I'm going to say something stupid on Facebook and lose my job. Hi.
I have a question. Oh, it's loud.
The volume button's on the, no.
There's a volume button here. Well, the
That's
question
okay.
I have is about mentoring.
Uh-huh.
Who do you mentor through? Is that an IBM program?
Well, it's a good question. It's supposed to be, but I do so much with the Technical Vitality Council. Like I'll do posters, and I'm in the Academy of Technology, so which is different than being an STSM. That a lot of times the woman that runs the Technical Vitality Council, she'll port people to me, or people will come up and just ask me to do it. Other times I'll get a note from a manager saying this person's really underperforming to their, not to their job, but to their potential. Can you go off and talk to them and see what's going on? And usually those are women that I get, because somehow they think they're going to talk to me more. I'm not management, so I'm in this weird role, so people can talk to me and I don't ever go back to their managers, or never goes back into the IBM thing. It's more like a friend thing. I really enjoy doing it because some people have challenges that I've just never had in my entire life. They're a lot more, like my challenges are I can't stay up all night anymore. I just physically can't do it, that kind of thing. But it's not the two autistic kids. That is hard. I mean, and a divorce, and I'm like, oh golly, and you're working. I said, that's just amazing, and she's doing really well on that. But and like I said before, sometimes it's frustrating. People are like, well, here's all the avenues that are open to you. Well, is IBM going to give me 3 weeks off so I can complete my certification package? Well, I'm sorry, they used to, but they don't do that anymore. You got to put in a lot of time, probably 2/3 of your personal time, and there's no guaranteed pay raise, but you're certified. And once you're certified at IBM, you usually don't get laid off. And that, to me, that's a big bonus. You are an ex-IBMer. Yeah, I remember all that. Are there any other questions? Hi.
Can you say a little bit more about your Sunday Fun Day? Like, how did you get into that habit? How long have you been doing it? That kind of thing?
I got into it. That's a really funny question. I haven't thought about this in years. Because on the mainframe, we used to actually have a mainframe that went lights out on Sunday. So all the MVS systems changes used to go in on Sunday. So all the systems programmers, we'd all take Friday afternoon off, and we didn't go to the library. We'd drinking in Medford, of all places, on Friday afternoons, and then we'd all go to work on Sunday morning. And so while they were doing their systems changes and I was learning, I'd crack open an MVS book or a JCL book, or that's back when they didn't even have PDFs back then. I can't believe how old I am. So you had to actually physically take a book and read it, but all the systems people would be there. So they answer. So I learned BTAM that way, learned all kinds of stuff. It was really good. Data set, storage. But in a way that was bad, because when I got transferred to Denver, I knew all this stuff and got called every night. So, but it was kind of interesting the way that worked. Are there any other questions? Am I on time?
Is this working? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So we're about to go to lunch, but first I want to show this awesome creation.
Oh.
What's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah made this in the back of the room
Yay.
in the morning. Very cool. So I hope that there are a lot of ideas generated from this morning, because we have a panel after lunch and then a workshop where I hope everybody contributes something. And if you think of anything, bring it to the workshop, bring it to the panel. And I'm available for lunch if anybody wants to sit with me. I hope that we all... Me? Okay. Yeah. Where is lunch? Nicole, do you know where lunch is? Over there. Okay. Well, we'll just follow the herd.
Oh, thanks. Ooh.